Hi, my name is Alysse Mazakian. I am a senior. I'm doing advertising, Texas Creative, and RTF. Currently with Texas Creative, I'm in P1, which stands for Portfolio 1. So I'm just starting out. The creative sequence starts off with Intro to Creative, which is kind of just a beginning class to see who's interested. You finish that class, you apply for the creative sequence, which consists of P1, P2, and P3, which are all portfolio classes, and sometimes P4, but technically to finish the sequence, you only need to go through P3. During every semester, you're preparing pieces for your portfolio, different ads, different campaigns that you're working on both by yourself and with your classmates. And then at the end of the semester, there's this thing called Critique Week, where they bring in professionals from the industry to go through your work and critique it about how you can make it better. After Critique Week, the professors get together, decide who they think is prepared enough to go on to the next part of the sequence, and then you get admitted into the next part of the sequence. So for the application for Texas Creative, you take an 11 by 17 piece of paper and you have a question that you have to answer in any way you can. So some people make sculptures like origami out of the piece of paper, some people do art on the piece of paper, some people cut things out of the piece of paper. It's really all up to you what you want to do with it. This past semester, the question was, how'd that get there? To answer that question, I drew someone's hands playing with one of those little paper fortune tellers, and on each side of the fortune teller, it had a different room of a house. And then there was a speech bubble that said, "Hey lady, where do you want this couch?" And so the premise was that this woman was moving and she was deciding where her furniture went with a fortune teller, hence the question, how'd that get there? And then you also have a note card, but you get a prompt for that note card. This past semester, the prompt was to create a new form of currency. I don't know if I should say mine. For mine, I was going through a lot that semester. My dad had actually been diagnosed with cancer and was going through chemo, and he kept making the joke to me about how I should use the "my dad has cancer" card while I can. So my form of currency was the emotional trauma dollars for my dad having cancer, which I know is a little dark, but I showed it to my dad. He thought it was funny, and he's all good now. So also, along with those two pieces, you turn in pieces from your creative journal that you're working on in the intro class. Turn in about 10 pieces of that. One skill I wish I had had before getting into Texas Creative is just a little bit more knowledge of graphic design, because I'm leaning towards being an art director, and so a lot of my work takes place in the creative cloud, but luckily we do have access to Linda. The hardest thing about being creative is the label of being a creative, because when you can't come up with something, it just feels like so defeating, and you're like, am I even really capable of being a creative? But something that my professor in Intro to Creativity, Sean, always told us is that everyone is creative. It's just different ways that you're creative. Overcoming creative block is really difficult. I actually one time, when I couldn't think of more taglines for an ad, I went on Omegle and asked random strangers if they had any ideas for advertisements. But I think the best key to overcoming creative block is just collaboration. The people in my class and I meet up pretty much every other week to talk about our campaigns outside of class, kind of give each other ideas, work on the projects together. So really collaborating with my peers and even like with random people or my friends is really where I get my inspiration from. Definitely in P1, having to come in with work every single day, pretty much present them to the class, get real-time feedback and fix it in real time, as well as come up with a campaign by yourself pretty much, or just with a couple other people. I think that's really similar to how it works in industry, where it's happening in real time, really getting that environment where it's a bunch of people all giving you feedback. I really think that just like the collaborative method of this class is really similar to how it would work in an agency. My advice to someone who wants to be in Texas Creative is just to make sure that you have time for it. Make sure you're really devoted to doing something like this, because it's not a blow-off class, obviously, but it's definitely worthwhile, even if you're just using it to kind of flex your creative muscles and just kind of like try to get in the zone and like get experience. It's definitely worth it. It's just something that you really have to put a lot of effort into. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Tapper. Okay.